All right, well, I'm just going to go ahead and kick this off. I see it's a few minutes after the hour here. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us this afternoon. It's really shaping up to be another challenging AEP this year in markets across the country. For those of you who are joining us from Minnesota, we've had a difficult week. At the end of last week, UCare announced that they're exiting the Medicare Advantage market, and there's roughly 150,000 members who are going to need to enroll in new plans. Yesterday, United Healthcare also announced that their plans will be non-commissionable in Minnesota for the 2026 AEP. The plans will stay in force and they're going to pay renewals, but you know, those are all difficult factors, and so we're definitely rolling with, you know, a lot of disruption here in Minnesota this year. But today I'm really delighted to welcome George Dippel, the president of Deft Research. George is also an Integrity Marketing Partner, so Deft Research is a partner company to Golden Care. And it's one of the leading market research firms in the health insurance industry, really across the whole country. They work with carriers, you know, certainly partners like ours, but are advisors to many people in the industry. Deft is based here in Minneapolis, and George and I have an opportunity to have dinner about once a quarter and just kick around things, you know, related to the market. But I'm really pleased that he was able to join us and share some of the information from a study they did called the AEP Gut Check. It really provides a lot of insights on the Medicare market and how Medicare beneficiaries are managing change in the market. So welcome, George. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, Tom, thank you so much for having me be part of your session. I want to thank everybody for giving up some of your late afternoon time. I hope you're all going to find this as valuable. And what you heard from Tom, what this study is and what we're seeking to do is we're trying to help you better understand what's going on between the ears of the senior citizen right now, right, over the summer months as they're already thinking ahead to the 2026 AEP. Now, all the disruption in Minnesota, all the disruption throughout the rest of the nation, we're going to hear more about that over the next 3 weeks, you know, what the carriers do. And that's one element of what's going to influence the AEP. But the other element is, what does the senior want to do, right? Today, we're going to talk mostly about what the senior wants to do and hear what we think this is going to lead to in terms of the 2026 AEP. So with that, Tom mentioned what we do at Deft. We are a market research firm, and all that means is we study the health insurance consumer, right? That's what we do, all right? Every day, we're studying the health insurance consumer to understand the products they want, what they want out of an agent, what makes them more loyal to an agent, what makes them more loyal to a carrier. And the left-hand side of this slide shows the 10 different Medicare-based studies this year. All right, this is number 7 of 10 AEP Gut Check. And the thinking here is, you know, all the benefits were submitted back in June. And by the time you get to the summer months, seniors have a pretty good idea if their plan is a keeper or if they need to throw it back in the pond and fish for a better one. And this gut check study is just meant to give you some insight into what they're thinking. So 1 of 10 projects, the middle column, we also support the ACA market. And of course, on the right, we are a custom research firm. Now, if we move up to the third slide, just talk a little bit about what we did in terms of the overall methodology in this study. Okay, this is a survey-based research. So we are surveying, as you see on this chart, some 2,700 total seniors, right? So they took our survey, and some of those folks were Medicare Advantage consumers, and we'll talk specifically about the MA consumer. Almost 1,000 were Med Sup. We'll talk about them as well. They're different, clearly. And then a little bit about folks in Original Medicare. The one thing I want to point out about Original Medicare is this is actually a growing segment of the senior population, okay? Up until last year, we were down to just 2.1 million folks who had Part A, Part B only coverage. Most folks are an MA or they have a Med Sup policy. We're down to just 2.1 million people who are truly Medicare Bear. Well, what happened last year? we termed 1.8 million non-SNP Medicare Advantage consumers. And not all those folks went to a different MA plan, and not all those folks took an SEP and moved to MedSup. 500,000 dropped down to just original Medicare only. So in 2024, we had 2.1 million people Part A, Part B. This year, it went up to 2.6 million. And based on the disruption we see happening for this upcoming year, it's going to be more than 3. Our point here is these consumers, they may not be able to afford MedSup. They may not want to stay with MA after they were disrupted, but these folks do have an appetite for ancillary coverage. Think hospital indemnity plans, think critical illness, think cancer policies. This is a growing segment of the population. We're going to spend most of our time on MA and MedSup, but as agents, I would say your ancillaries are only going to be more important from this point forward. Now we can move up. Our first section is going to talk about where consumers are in the summer months. Let's call it the halfway point of the year and how they feel about their coverage. Now, this circle chart on the left tells us that by the time that we get to the summer months, 90% of seniors have used their Medicare benefit. Right? So that means 90% of seniors have taken out their MedSup card and they've handed it over to the medical technician at the doctor's office, or they took out their MAPD card and they handed it over to the pharmacy tech. What a carrier might think of as a utilization event, 90% of seniors have done this. Now, carriers think about that as a utilization event, but what it is to the senior is it is a value moment. When I take that card out and I hand it over to the pharmacy tech, and I know that this prescription is going to be covered, even though I had no idea back in November when I thought about my coverage that I'd be diagnosed with this, or that I'm able to see this specialist because I'll be able to get in and they're in network. Those utilization moments are value moments for seniors, and it reminds them why they have this coverage in the first place. Okay, they use their benefit, they remember why they have it. And on the right side, if I'm Medicare Advantage in blue and I've used my coverage, I am therefore more loyal to my carrier and I'm more loyal to my agent. Now, what do we mean by loyal? You see on this chart, 9 to 10 loyal, 0 to 6 at risk. This is a basic question that you're going to see throughout our session today, where we're asking all these 2,700 seniors out there, right? From 0 to 10, how likely are you to re-up your coverage this fall? Same plan, same everything. The 9s and the 10s, these are folks who say, sign me back up. Everything is going swimmingly. Now the 0 to 6, these folks are signaling they have one foot out the door. I want out of this plan. Well, in blue, if I have used my coverage, I'm more loyal to my plan and to my agent. Now for MedSup, the opposite is true. If I'm in MedSup, and here it is the summer months, and I'm in gray, I have not yet used my MedSup coverage, I'm much more likely to want to quit it. Right? What have MedSup folks dealt with? Maybe 13 to 15% premium increases over each of the last 2 years. If they haven't used their coverage, they're questioning their coverage. This will be a very active AEP on the MA side, but it will also be a very active AEP on the MedSup side. As we'll see later on, MedSup consumers do not want to quit their Medigap. They love the concept of supplemental Medicare, but they may be more interested in a lower cost Medigap. Plan N, high deductible Plan G, maybe switching carriers if they can get through underwriting. Expect not just MA switching this year, but expect MedSup switching this year. Now, Tom, if we go to the next slide. This next slide depicts the other spectrum, right? As I mentioned, there are 2 things at play right now that will determine how active this AEP is. 1, what seniors want to do. That's our focus. 2, what you see on this slide, what the carriers do. We have this tool at Deft called our MAPD disruption tool. And we have this index called the Medicare Plan Stability Index. All this is on 10/1, when the new benefits come out, when all the mystery is gone, right? Everybody has their cards on the table. These are the plans. Our analysts at Deft go to work and they examine every plan across the nation, across all the pertinent benefits to determine, did this plan get richer or did it get leaner? How stable was it? Now, the left-hand side of this chart shows a scale that goes from 0 to minus 80. Let's just imagine it goes up to plus 80. Well, what would plus 80 be? Plus 80 would be, I'm a senior, it's last year, it's 10-1, I go to my mailbox, I get my ANOC, I read it, and I say, oh my goodness, look at this plan. Everything got better. My allowance went up. My co-pays went down. My MOOP went down. My drug deduct, everything got better. I'm plus 80. This plan is richer. Okay. Well, you know, therefore, what minus 80 is. It's the opposite. It's a senior who looks at the ANOC and they see everything got worse. This chart is what happened last October 1st. There was no senior last year in aggregate across the nation in any state, on average, who saw their plans improved. Now, when we look at, let's say, Minnesota, right, our home state here at Deft, Golden Care's home state, you'll notice last year Minnesota was one of the least disrupted states, right? That blue under Minnesota, only Hawaii was less disrupted than Minnesota. This is not going to be the case this year. Okay, we're going to have significant disruption this year from the exits you heard from UCARE, from other financial difficulties of these carriers. But what I will tell you is, in a year where there is massive disruption, it also brings with it great opportunity. We're going to see that in Minnesota as well as most of the upper Midwest this year. Tom, if we move to slide 7, here we get into how consumers feel about their coverage. Here we're just asking folks, okay, when you think about your MA or your Med Supp, right, how do you feel about your costs or your access, drug coverage if you got Part D? If you look at MA across these 5 areas, access, customer service, benefits and costs, and drug coverage, some folks do recognize I don't have the same access I had before. We lost access to this clinic. 7% of the service was lousy. 10%, maybe my benefits got worse. I lost my OTC or my $1,000 of dental, or my costs went up, or drug coverage. I was a victim of up-tiering. The table on the right says in aggregate, what percent of the entire MA world said by the summer months, I've had a problem, at least one of these. It's a quarter, and it's the same quarter for Med Supp. So what I would do as an agent, whether I have 10 clients or I have 1,000 clients, just imagine that list. And 1 out of 4 of those names is already thinking that there are challenges with my current plan, and therefore they may be more likely to ask you to help them to find different coverage. That's what we see on slide 8, if you can't tell. This is our all-important loyalty question. Remember earlier, I said we ask a question of all these seniors on a scale of 0 to 10, where 10 is I 100% want to re-up my coverage, I am loyal, and 0, I want out of this. The 9s and the 10s are our loyalists, and the 0 to 6 at risk. Let's take a look at how the MA market has changed over the last 4 years of us doing this research. MA is at the top. If we look at June of 2022, just 3 years ago, when we ran this very study, and we asked the same group of seniors, 0 to 10, how likely are you to re-up? Well, 64% said, I'm a 9 or 10. I want to re-up this plan. And then the next year went to 60, and then the next year 59, and this year it's down to 53. Okay. The challenge isn't that the loyal number has gone down. The challenge is that at-risk number goes up. If we look at the at-risk section, red, 12, 15, 17, and this year plus 4 points, and that is a very statistically relevant increase. That is not a statistical fluke. What does this mean? Figure 21% of all MA seniors right now are saying what? I have 1 foot out the door. I want out of this MA plan. Right? That is a record. Now, the same thing is true for Med Supp. We look at Med Supp, and you look at those blue loyal numbers, right? They're hanging in there. 60, 61, 55, 56. Yeah, they're down. These folks have seen huge premium increases, right? But they're loyal to the category of supplemental insurance. They do not want MA. They're loyal to Medigap as a concept. But the red tells us they will look for a different plan in MedSup. 12, 13, 14, and then this year, boom, up 4 points. That 18% is also not a statistical anomaly. Both private books of business, we have more consumers signaling in the summer months, I want out of this plan. Right? It will be a disruptive year. You will be called on a lot. But again, we're going to show where there is more opportunity. Tom, if you can move to the next slide. Now we're going to see if our methods hold up during the test of time. This chart, all right, on the x-axis is saying when we go to these seniors, let's say that yellow line, right, June of 2022, when we go to seniors in this summer study and say, hey, do you want to re-up or do you want to leave this plan? Are you 0 to 10? 10, are you going to be loyal? 0, are you at risk? The at-risk percentage in June of 2022 was 12% for MA. 12% of folks told us in that summer, I want out. Well, if you look at where that yellow is on the y-axis, this is what actually transpired when the AEP was over. What was the percent of these MA seniors who voluntarily chose to switch? We predicted 12% in our June study. The actual rate when the dust settled on the AEP, 11. All right, the next year, we published a 15% at-risk switch rate for MA. What did it actually end up being? 12. Last year, we said it's going to be 17. It ended up being 16. These are never going to be exact. Right? That's not how sampling goes. But as you can see, this is a good indicator. This is horseshoes and hair grenade stuff. And if we extrapolate that to this year's study, where 21% of folks said in this June study I'm at risk, the y-axis tells us we may very well have 22% of seniors choose to switch their coverage. That's what the seniors want. Remember, that's one part of this. The other part of this is what the carriers are going to do, right? The SARs, the exits. We keep track of those things. Right now, we believe there are 1.6 million consumers who are non-commissionable plans. And we believe we're going to end up around 1.8 or 2 million consumers termed, SAR'd, or exited this year, just like last year. The net, 20% of folks might choose to switch. Another 8% may be forced to switch. We could be close to 30% switching, which would be the highest record recorded for MA switching since Deft has been in business for 20 years. Tom, next slide, please. Now, if I had to give advice to an agent to say, there's going to be plenty of opportunity this year, okay, and there will be, but take care of retaining your book of business you have first. I would look at this slide and say there are two types of customers that you have today that you're going to want to give up. But if I was an agent, I had to focus on a couple types of customers to shore up their loyalty. Look at new to Medicare enrollees. These just mean, think about anybody this past year that you helped age into Medicare. 12% of them are dissatisfied with their plan. That's a lot. Now, it's not that you did a bad job, but if I'm new to Medicare, and let's say you sat down and you worked with these folks 6, 7, 8, 9 months ago, and you found the best plan for them, and they're happy with it, and you're happy with it, and it's perfect in every way, and all of a sudden what happens? My carrier exits the market. The plan benefits change. These newbies are not accustomed to the fact that Medicare plans can change meaningfully, and it will shake them. If I've been enrolled for a few years, I'm more accustomed to it. If I've been enrolled for several years, I'm okay with the changes. But anybody who is new to Medicare that you brought in, give them a bigger hug. They're the ones who are going to be most shook with these changes. And then number two, folks in that line that says less than 1 year, right? That means they're less than 1 year with you. So they may not be new to Medicare. They're just new to you. They may be in their 70s and you just picked them up this past year. Anybody who is new in your book, they've only been on your book for a year, or you brought them into Medicare for the first time this year, these folks will be the most shook with these changes. And that means they are less loyal to the carrier and potentially less loyal to you. So we would say disruption is happening, opportunity will come, but give a bigger, warmer retention hug to anybody who is new to your book of business. Tom, can we move up? All right. So what is that? What can you guys do? How can you drive value? You can drive value by doing for the carriers what the carriers haven't been able to do this year. Left-hand side of this slide, we're asking a really important question that has been very predictive in all the years that we've been at Deft at helping us understand who's happy with their coverage, who's going to be loyal. And that is what you see on the left. Asking seniors on a scale of 0 to 10, how satisfied are you with your insurer's help in using your coverage, right? Has the insurer helped you understand this? Of folks who are satisfied with their carrier's help in using their coverage, 7 out of 10 want to be loyal, right? On the right in red, if I'm not happy with my carrier's help using coverage, 57% want to quit their plan. They want to quit their agent, right? What we can do is we can help these carriers help their customers understand their benefits. If you move to slide 13, the next slide here, this then gets into, well, are the carriers doing a good job this year helping folks understand their benefits? Right? And what we see on slide 13 is they're not. Only 46% of seniors say my carrier reached out to me after 1/1 to help me understand my benefits. The most important thing that keeps me loyal, did my carrier help me understand my benefits? Less than half of seniors say my carrier reached out to me after 1/1 to help me understand these benefits. That's where the agent can come into play. And if we move on to the next slide, we can see some of the things that consumers want out of an agent. And number one, they want attention this fall. Take a look at the blue. These are consumers that we surveyed who are currently working with an agent. And we're just asking these folks, okay, great, you work with an agent. How frequently do you need to talk with your agent? 6 out of 10 say, once or twice throughout the course of the year. Okay. Most people that work with an agent will say, I want to meet with my agent in the fall when all these benefit changes happen. Just make sure we're squared away. And then maybe get in touch with them in Q1. Right? Make sure my card showed up. Make sure everything is hunky-dory. Most folks, 6 out of 10, just don't enroll me and abandon me. Stay in touch with me a few times throughout the course of the year. That's in blue for folks who work with an agent. But look in purple. These are seniors who do not have an agent. They are DIYers, do-it-yourselfers. And 51% of seniors who are not working with an agent today say what? Maybe I should work with an agent once or twice throughout the course of the year. As I mentioned, disruption leads to opportunity. There are seniors out there who have a little bit of PTSD based on the changes that happened last year in Medicare. And there are seniors who are DIYers who never paid attention to those benefit changes, but they're hearing in the paper there are changes this year. Expect more consumers to want to work with an agent this year. More folks ought to come to you for assistance, which is another reason why we want to take care of our current customers early and often, particularly anyone we aged into Medicare or is new to our book of business. Even DIYers right now are hearing about all this disruption and they're thinking, I probably should work with an agent. Well, how do we do that? What's the best way? Tom, if you move to slide 15, we're going to talk about how folks want to work with an agent today. Left-hand side, what is my most preferred method of meeting with an agent? Well, you can see there are a lot of folks say by telephone. That's easy. It's easier for the senior. It's easier for the agent. Or maybe email. Okay, but those that are in purple represent seniors wanting to see the whites of the eyes of their agent. 43% of seniors want to either meet their agent at their agent's place of business, or maybe in my house or apartment, or maybe at a Tim Hortons or McDonald's or a public library. More seniors want to see the eyes of their agent this year because of the disruption that's happening in the market. And on the right, when we look at how folks interact with an agent, it's about 50-50 face or in person, face-to-face, or via telephone. But I want to draw your attention to the gray box on the right. When the senior perceives that their agent has changed their business so that the agent is making sure they're meeting their customer the way their customer wants to be met, that customer is more likely to reward you with a word-of-mouth referral. Let's take a look at the next slide. This gets into what are the attributes that I want to see in an agent I work with. Left-hand side of slide number 16. Let's take a look at the top 4 attributes that today's senior wants in an agent. Top 4, fourth from the top. What do we have here? contacts me periodically throughout the course of the year. This is only going to get more important when seniors hear about this disruption. What are seniors saying? Don't enroll me and never check in with me. You only have to check in with me a few times a year, definitely in the fall, Q1, but enroll me and stay in touch with me. Number 2, sell for multiple carriers. Really important this year that seniors perceive that you have access to the various plans and the various carriers, and you're working to put them in what is the best plan for them, not for the one plan that you might be able to sell. All right, what do we see above that? Do so in one meeting. Everyone wants a quick process. But the number one thing, I just want to be heard. I want my agent to spend enough time with me to make sure I understand this coverage. When seniors sniff change in the air, they're going to want more attention. Okay? In fact, lack of attention is the biggest issue seniors have in all of healthcare. Seniors will always complain they don't have enough time with the primary care provider. Now it's down to about 8 minutes is all that you get. And a lot of times for seniors, the doctor comes in the office, they've got their nose in an iPad, they're checking off a bunch of these bogus quality measures, and next thing you know, the doctor is leaving, and the senior feels like, I never got to get off my chest what I came here for in the first place. Because disruption occurred last year, because there's disruption in the air this year, seniors are going to want to spend more time to make sure they clearly understand the changes that they have. Now, when we do that, when we change how we do business to meet them in their most preferred location, we stay in touch with them periodically, we sell for multiple carriers, we do so efficiently, and we make sure they understand these changes this fall. The next slide shows what we're rewarded with. High satisfaction levels that lead to greater word-of-mouth referrals. Left-hand side, we're looking at people who work with an agent. How satisfied are you with your agent? 5% are dissatisfied. That's it, right? 4% a little bit, 1% not at all. 95% of folks are satisfied with their agent. And if you add up the 2 green bars, I'm very extremely satisfied. It's more than 8 out of 10. And when we do all those things, we meet them how they want to be met. We stay in touch with them after 1/1, do for the carriers what the carriers aren't perceived as doing for themselves. We do so efficiently. We sell for multiple carriers, and we make sure they feel as though they've been heard and we spent the time. When we make them into green, very extremely satisfied, we're also more likely to have received another word-of-mouth referral, even though they haven't told us that. And what's more, if we move to the next slide, when we stay in touch with our customers, and it's more important to stay in touch with them this year with all these changes than we've seen in the past, the senior wins, the agent wins, the carrier wins. This slide in blue, we're getting to seniors to say, no, my agent stays in touch with me after enrollment. Blue, they stay in touch with me after enrollment. Purple, they don't. They enrolled me and I never heard from them again. Let's look at the second set of bars from the left. In blue, if my agent stays in touch with me throughout the course of the year, a few times, 75% of folks are recommending that agent. If the agent enrolls and I don't hear from them after 1/1, that drops to 47. That's a 28-point difference. When you stay in touch after 1/1, you win with more word-of-mouth referrals, but so does the carrier. The middle set of bars, there's a survey that CMS forces carriers to do every year. It's called a CAP survey, right? Where the carrier sent out a survey to their members and CMS gets to see the results. There's an important question on that. CMS is asking these seniors to rate their health plan. Is it a 0, the worst health plan possible, or is it a 10? Well, when the agent stays in the picture long term and checks in with them after 1/1 in enrollment, the carrier does better. And when the carrier scores better on that survey, the carrier makes more money from CMS. Now let's move up, if you don't mind, to slide number 19, Tom, because this also gets into the reward. When we stay in touch, when we meet with our customers the way they want to be met, we sell for multiple carriers, we do so efficiently, we take enough time. When we do all those things, we've earned the right to gain more business. The left-hand side of slide 19, we ask these seniors who work with an agent. We say, okay, Did your agent talk to you about something other than Medicare Advantage or MediSup or Part D? They talked about other insurance products. 61%, no, they did not. Right? 39% did. But most, 6 out of 10, no, my agent only talked about the Medicare stuff. But on the far right side, look at these likely to recommend agent scores. If I don't talk about any ancillaries, right, extended stay or short term, whatever you want to call it, hospital indemnity, cancer coverage, critical illness, if I'm not also having conversations about that, only 56% of my clients will recommend me to a friend or neighbor. Now, if I start talking about some of those, one or two, that 56 goes to 60. And more, if I start talking about short-term and hospital indemnity and DVL bundles and all of it, now it goes to 69. And if I have a robust conversation, not just about their Medicare primary insurance, but about all the potential other insurance needs they have, notice they're more likely to recommend you to their friends and family. Now, we are studying seniors and agents all the time. And we hear from agents all the time, I'm so busy during AEP, I don't have time to talk about these products. I understand it. It is a busy time, right? But if they want you to stay in touch with them during the course of the year, is there an opportunity to have more discussions about ancillary products in Q1 or Q2? What this data tells us is when you have those conversations, it's not that you're off-putting and these consumers don't want to work with you anymore. They're meaningfully more likely to want to recommend you to friends and family. Okay? If I'm a senior and my brother says, hey, George, I need you to recommend someone to me for Medicare, I feel like the hero to my brother or my sister or my cousin or my friend when I know I'm putting them in touch with someone who has a comprehensive 360-degree view of all things insurance related. Okay? I feel better about being the hero and recommending a true expert than I do about recommending a one-trick pony. Contrary to popular belief, the more you talk about ancillary products, the more free word-of-mouth referrals you receive. All right, let's move up now and talk about these benefit changes. Now, this slide here, slide 21, shows a list of the various supplemental benefits that Medicare Advantage consumers have today, and there are a bunch of them, okay? Seniors covet dental, right? They covet vision and OTC and flex cards and all these benefits that you see. These are the percent of seniors that have these. Now, what I can tell you is, with a fair degree of certainty, this slide next year, these bars are going to be shorter, right? Some of the MLR financial pressures that carriers have mean that they just don't have enough money to have as much on that flex card or that OTC card. Seniors love these, but these are going to get squeezed. Now, in the next chart, seniors are telling us what they're most in need of. Okay, we're going now to seniors that have all these benefits. So I've got hearing and comprehensive dental and transportation and grocery. I have these benefits. And what we're telling the senior is, of all these benefits in red, tell me the one benefit, only one, you would be most upset if you lost. So what we want to do here is focus on those bigger red bars. Dental allowances, flex allowances, food. Okay. There are a lot of benefits that might get trimmed up more this year. But what seniors are saying is, pretty please pay close attention to my dental changes, my flex changes, and any food benefit I have. That's what they're going to rely on you to know. Right? Yeah, obviously we want to know all these changes and we want to understand the summary benefits and everything that's happened. But what seniors are telling us right now is please pay most attention to dental allowances, flex allowances, and the food benefit. Now, slide 23 gets a little bit into what I would call as once bitten, twice shy. Here we're looking at deductible increases, drug deductible increases. Last year, the average senior's drug deductible in MAPD went up by $165. If they had a standalone Part D plan, the annual average senior's drug deductible went up by $64. And I will tell you, most seniors had no clue about this. At Deft, we run a study 2 weeks after ANOX hit, where we know exactly what happened to these consumers' benefit changes. We know if their deductible went up and by how much. But we're just asking them, hey, did you have a chance to look at your annual notice of change letter? Those that say yes, we say great. When it comes to drug deductible, do you think it went up a little bit, stayed the same, maybe went down? We knew what happened. We wanted to see if they paid attention. And of all the folks in this study whose drug deductible went up, less than 30% realized that it did. Well, on average, it was $165. Okay, and what does that mean? Seniors didn't see this coming. They felt it in January when they went to the pharmacy. What they were expecting to be $30 was now $260. And at a time when all seniors are cash poor coming out of the holidays. That was a rude awakening, and that was once bitten, twice shy. Seniors are going to pay more attention to drug changes this year. In fact, that $165 increase, that's that blue line that you see there. So on the x-axis, we're saying how much of a drug deductible increase could you tolerate this year before it's time to shop? Well, at that same 165, it's 93% of MA members. What does that mean? They're telling you they want you to pay attention to their dental allowance, food allowance, flex allowance, and they're also going to be paying attention to changes in drug and drug deductible. We want to make sure that we are prepared for those areas. That's what our seniors are going to pay attention to. And they'll also, of course, next slide, pay attention to premium changes, right? Here we're looking at the same thing on the x-axis. How much of a premium increase could you tolerate before you say, that's it, I got to get a different product? Well, if you look on the x-axis right around $20 and look up, you see that green line would be zero premium MA, and the blue line, I'm paying some premium. Well, at a $20 increase, let's say 7 out of 10 seniors say, premium for MA goes up by $20, I need to look. Okay, by $20 premium increase, that's only half of folks in Med Sup would look. In fact, you have to go out to $35 increase for Med Sup before you see that get to that same 70% number. Now, are we going to see $35 increases in Med Sup? We're already seeing them. Our friends at CSG Actuarial tell us the average Plan G today for a 65-year-old is $198. Well, the average premium increase was right around 15 so far this year. What's 15% of 200? 35. It isn't just going to be MA consumers paying attention to premium increases. It's going to be our Med Sup consumers. But on our final slide, we take a look at those same Med Sup consumers and say, okay, how much of a premium increase can you tolerate before you move out of Med Sup into MA? We never even get to 50% would consider MA. Okay, even more than a $50 monthly increase, only 4 out of 10 would consider it, and most wouldn't move to it. In fact, last year, when we had similar Med Sup increases, 2% of Med Sup members moved to MA last year. Okay, it won't be a bunch, but what will they want to do? Med Sup consumers, if they can, will want to move or hear about lower cost options, cost sharing options, high deductible options, Plan N, Plan G, high deductible, and maybe moving from carrier A to carrier B if I can move out of guaranteed issue and into underwritten business. The bottom line, group, is there is going to be a lot of disruption this year, right? But there's going to be a lot of opportunity. Opportunity in the ancillary, the short-term extended space, hospital indemnity plans, but also opportunity in all those seniors who have never worked with an agent, hearing about this disruption, thinking this is the year. I want the buck to stop with a professional. I'm no longer going to be a DIYer. I hope you all found value out of this session. I know we had some technology hiccups there. My apologies, guys. But we think it is going to be a very disruptive year, but a year where there will be plenty of opportunity.
All right, George, thank you very much. This is, I think this is my third go around on this presentation, and every time, I feel like I'm finding, new things as takeaways. So I certainly appreciate your time. I know you're on a schedule here. I think we have about 5 minutes. If I'll take 1 or 2 questions if anyone wants to unmute and ask. If not, we'll put a wrap on it with that. So Does anyone have any questions? You can unmute. All right. Well, I think with that, George, we'll put a wrap on it. Thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon, and be sure to reach out. We know it's going to be a bit of a hectic AEP here, but we're here to support everyone through this. So have a great day, and with that, we'll close it out. So have a good afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Golden Care is looking forward to serving you with new tools, new products, new innovations, and always the best support in the business to help you succeed in 2022. So give us a call at 800-842-7799 or check out our website at www.goldencareagent.com.